Hey, hi everyone. Okay, let's get people to join. Let's wait. Okay, people have started joining. Hi Bharati. Hi Sharath. Hi Shekhar. Yeah, can you also confirm if I am audible? Hi Sai. Hi Mudra. Hi Ram. Hi Farzan. Hi Tushar. Happy Holi. Yeah, happy Holi. Happy Holi everyone. Vivekananda, MK, Sharath, Naresh, Naveen, Legend, Shubham, Sridhar, Sindhura, hi. Okay, people have started joining. Love from Canada. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kian Vlogs. Yes, audible. Great. Good evening. Good evening, Sridhar. Yeah. Okay, I'll get there. So I'll start picking up questions. Let's wait for couple more minutes so that people will join and we can get to the agenda for today. And also we can like we do every Monday, we will also do Ask Me Anything. So we'll just wait for just 2 minutes. Yeah, is there any project with Spring Boot plus DevOps? Yeah, you can just search for Ultimate CI/CD Pipeline, Abhishek.Veeramalla. We have a end-to-end CI/CD pipeline with ArgoCD. That's a Spring Boot application which I've written. So yeah, you will get that. It's a very simple Spring Boot application that I've written. Cool. We have close to 200 people. One more minute and we will get started with the agenda. Yeah, Tushar is asking where to start from your playlist. Okay, probably you are new to channel. Channel has multiple playlists, and if you want to get placed in DevOps, DATE start with Terraform. Sorry, DevOps zero to hero DE. Then you have DATE, sorry, start with DevOps Zero to Hero. Then you can either go with AWS Zero to Hero or Azure Zero to Hero, whichever you would like to go with. We have both the playlists on the channel and both are done. Then go with Terraform Zero to Hero. And finally, once you complete all this, go with the Python Zero to Hero. So all the Zero to Hero playlists are available. You can go with the same order: DATE, DevOps, AWS or Azure Zero to Hero, then go with Terraform Zero to Hero. Finally, go with the Python playlist. And each playlist has projects. Individually within the playlist, there are projects. As you start learning towards the end of the playlist, you will start to see the projects. So, firstly, as the name itself suggests, right? Zero to Hero. If I take one example of Azure Zero to Hero playlist, if I have to give that as an example, so in the Azure Zero to Hero playlist, we have started with the extreme fundamentals from the point of understanding what exactly is cloud computing. Then we understood the concept of virtual machines, virtualization. We learned the Azure networking terminology. What are the different items in the Azure networking? How do they interact with each other? Then we learned about Azure DevOps. We learned about implementing three-tier architecture applications on the Azure DevOps, end-to-end Azure DevOps project. Then we learned about containerization. Then we learned about the container registry, AKS. We have done a lot of projects on that. Finally, we learned about the serverless functions as well. Not just that, I've just given you a rough outline. But yeah, going back to your question, DATE, just follow the same order. DevOps versus data science. I'm not a data science person, so if you ask me, I would say DevOps only. But you can do your research depending upon the skills that you have. AI replace DevOps. I think the question is, will AI replace DevOps? or I'm not sure if you are trying to explain that AI replaced DevOps. But if you ask me, I have made a very clear video on Devin. You can watch that video. I have explained in a very clear way what is my stand on will AI replace DevOps. Yeah, same question. So the answer is again the same. Ranjit is asking, just go to the channel. There is a video on Devin that I've made, and I've explained very clearly, because this is not a one-word answer, yes or no. It will take a lot of time if I start explaining. So instead, you can just go and watch that Devin video on the channel. I've clearly explained the stand. How is it going to be? What do I think about the AI? Will AI replace DevOps or not? I've explained everything, not in a single word, but using a case study. I have explained that. Thank you, Bangaram. The name itself is Bangaram. Nice. Abhishek.Veeramalla. Okay, I'm fine. Hi, and I love now. Thanks for asking. Srinu. It's 2 years experience. Srinu, thanks for asking. Yeah, Ranjit, I have explained the answer to your question. Please do one class on pom.xml. I don't think that is required on a complete class, because usually you don't write the pom.xmls. Developers write pom.xml. You need to know about Maven targets, and how to execute the Maven targets. Right? On a high level, just try to understand what is pom.xml. Right? It's a if you want to build your applications using Maven in Java, so you write that pom.xml files, right? And in the pom.xml files, you need to understand how the dependencies have to be placed. What is a root pom.xml? What are the child pom.xmls? What is the settings.xml file? What does that do? How do you connect to a Nexus artifactory within your pom.xml? Or how do you provide access to a particular registry within your pom.xml? These are the things that you need to know at a very high level. That is fine. Yeah, I'll get to the topic for today, that is DevSecOps, in a minute. I'll just see if there are any questions, and then I'll go to the topic for there. Sure, I will make a video on WebAssembly for sure. I have already in my pipeline, Ravi. Okay, so let's get to the topic for today, that is DevSecOps. So, I've made a video long back on DevSecOps, and recently I see a lot of people talking about DevSecOps. So I uploaded a video yesterday as well on DevSecOps. But because we are on live, I can also pick questions. So I thought I will talk about DevSecOps, and if there are any questions, I'll also pick them. So seriously speaking, DevSecOps is nothing new. If you are a DevOps engineer, and if you are considering security best practices in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day tasks, then you are already doing DevSecOps, right? So that's it. That is DevSecOps. There is nothing new at all. DevOps plus security in your day-to-day tasks is DevSecOps. Let me give basic example. Let's say you are working on one of the DevOps tools. Let's pick up CI/CD. Within the CI/CD pipeline, if you are considering about the security, such as running the static code analysis, or such as scanning the code to check any vulnerabilities that are added in the latest commit, scanning the image that you have created, the container image or the Docker image that you have created. Probably you can use Trivy or Claire or Quay, or in the previous stage, scanning the code, you can probably use Snyk or something, right? Or Sonar. So this is DevSecOps in that particular task. Let's say you're working on AWS or you're working on Azure. Recently on the Kubernetes video, I have explained how to connect your Kubernetes cluster with Azure Vault, so that the secrets that you have with respect to your Kubernetes, one of the secrets that your Kubernetes pod is using, you can place them in the Azure Vault, and you can configure Azure Vault secrets to be rotated once in 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, so that the information is sensitive. Now, this is DevSecOps with respect to the Kubernetes tasks that you are doing. So DevSecOps is nothing new, and to be very honest, I don't think there is anything called as DevSecOps. If you are, if you have been like, I have been doing DevOps for a lot of time, and every time I think about security, so I'm already a DevSecOps engineer. That's it. So there is a term that is getting popular, but do not think it as a new job or new responsibility or something that you have to learn explicitly. That has to be a culture that should come within you, that you consider security in whatever you are doing. Okay, thanks Venkata Vishwas. Difference between webhook, container, and pipeline orchestration. Okay, all three of them are completely different. Like, there are no even similarities, because webhook is, if you take Git as an example, okay, or take GitHub as an example. So webhook is, you configure a trigger, you can assume it as a trigger, which will execute some action when the trigger is executed. I'll make it even more simple. Let's say whenever a developer creates a pull request, you want to send a Jira notification to people who want to review that pull request, right? So that they are immediately notified that a pull request is created, and you create a task for them that you have to review the pull request, and I have created a Jira task for you. Or a issue is created, and you want a developer to look at the issue and immediately respond to the issue. So these are nothing but the webhooks, where you are creating a hook, right? Simply understand it as, you are creating a hook or a trigger on a particular action that is taking place. It can be on Git, it can be on Jenkins, or any other place. But webhooks are quite popular in the GitHub world, or in the GitHub, GitLab, these kind of places. We have already implemented a project on webhook also. If you go to our Python for DevOps playlist, I have integrated GitHub with Jira using a webhook, where whenever someone comments on the GitHub repository, let's say they have commented /Jira. Now this becomes a trigger or a webhook. On this trigger, I have executed a Python script that talks to the Jira APIs and triggers and creates a Jira request. So this is about a webhook project. It is there in the Python for DevOps playlist on the channel. Container and pipeline orchestrator, again, they are very different. Container, if I have to quickly explain, because I've done so many videos on that, a container is nothing but simply understand as a application along with the dependencies that are required to run the application, plus dependencies that are required to execute your entire, not just the application, but your entire application, right? It's not a complete virtual machine, but it's just a combination of application plus application dependencies plus the system dependencies that are required to run your application. That is a container. Pipeline orchestration, you can consider as Jenkins as an example, which comes in the CI/CD process. Okay, thanks Adi. Let's go back to the live section. How to reach out to you for mentorship? Right now, I'm doing it on YouTube. So every Monday I'm coming live for the same thing, to answer your questions. But otherwise, in April, I'm also trying to open slots on TopMate. But let me see about the feasibility. I think both of them are highly paid, DevOps engineers and data engineers. So I think both of them are highly paid, and they both have good growth also. Difference between Azure DevOps and AWS DevOps. I have explained this in a complete dedicated video. Just type the same thing and type my name on the YouTube search. You will get a complete dedicated video where I have explained with details what is the difference between both of them and which one you have to choose as a career. Okay. More comments are loading. Let's see. Okay, there is a good question. Is my profile also DevSecOps? I have 7 years experience in process automation and app development from scratch. Ansible, Kubernetes, 3 years in compliance. ISO should I? But you don't have all the skills that are required for a DevOps engineer. So you should be learning things like Terraform. You should be learning more about the containerization, learn more about Linux, right? Just even if you look at the core syllabus of a DevOps Zero to Hero, you can see what is missing in your, like, you don't have to even go through the videos. If you just look at the outline of the, just looking at the headings of the videos in the DevOps Zero to Hero, you will understand what is missing in your resume to become a DevOps engineer. But again, I have explained DevSecOps, right? Just having that security mindset is about DevSecOps. Difference between DevOps and data engineer. Again, they both are totally different, right? DevOps is about improving the efficiency of the release cycle, or reducing the operations effort, improving your software development lifecycle within your organization. End of the day, to reduce the release lifecycle time is DevOps. Data engineering is a complete different thing. Like, I don't think there is any relation between even both of them. Please take my question. Okay, let me see. Where is your question? Yeah, please don't try to repeat the questions. I'll pick up the questions. Try to arrange one meetup in Bangalore. We did one meetup in Bangalore. Right now, I don't have that enough time, but as soon as I find some time, I'll start the meetups one more time. But I don't know when will I do it. Last time when we did in Bangalore, I think 100, not 100, but yeah, good number of people were there. Abhishek himself planning to move to MLOps. Good. I didn't know that. See, if you want to learn about the impact of AI, there is already video on the channel. And MLOps, right now, it is in the stage of building. Azure and AWS, both of them have very good future at this point of time. Like, looking at the current trend, both AWS and Azure are doing really good. What is this question? Let's see. Fang job is equals to DevOps plus dash plus dash plus DSA with Python. It depends. I hope you are a fresher. If you are a fresher, then you need to have. If you are targeting Fang job specially, because they have a specific cycle of interviews. Like, it doesn't change if you are a DevOps engineer or data engineer, or if you are a QE developer. They do the same thing for every candidate. So you need to have knowledge on data structures, algorithms, system design. Okay, I found your question. Please take my question. I have 5 years of experience in manual testing. Now I am planning to transition to DevOps. So, will they hire as a fresher or experienced? You should always go with experienced only. Why do you want to waste your 5 years of experience? So, what you need to do is do some projects on DevOps, right? And try to follow. You don't have to follow the structure in our channel only. You can go through any other things as well. But end of the day, do some projects. Try to show that you have worked on those projects in last 1 year or in last 2 years, so that you can convert 1 or 2 years of experience into the DevOps experience by doing those projects. If required, you can also go a step ahead, because you are already working in an organization. You can pick up any certification. Don't do certification if they are not reimbursing that certification. But if you get it reimbursed, then also you can do a certification and try to justify 1 or 2 years of experience in your resume. How is the job market in the US now for DevOps? I think it is getting better, but still, I think it has to improve. Please create DevSecOps pipeline in AWS DevOps. As there are no plugins supported in AWS code pipeline, it's becoming complex. Oh, okay. You want me to do it using the AWS native CI/CD pipeline, that is the code pipeline. Okay, I'll try to see for sure. I'll keep that in mind. Why you did not come to AWS Community Bangalore as you are a community builder? Uh, I just came back from Singapore. Uh, like Saturday, I'm back from Singapore, or you can consider Sunday because it was late night. So I was attending a different conference in Singapore. When are you starting Kubernetes troubleshooting playlist? Yeah, I'm just back from Singapore Sunday. So I'll try to spend some time. I'll try to prepare the course syllabus, see how much time the course syllabus is taking, and accordingly, I will announce the date, and also I'll announce what will be the syllabus, like what will be part of that Kubernetes troubleshooting playlist. I'll let you know. I don't think so. Okay. AWS versus Azure for fresher. Both of them are good. But if you want to pick only one, I would pick AWS. Abhishek, will you do any videos on AWS Glue, AWS Redshift, AWS latest services with any real-time scenarios? I will try to do, because right, there are so many videos that I have to do. Now I'm thinking about Kubernetes troubleshooting playlist. Meanwhile, I have some videos in the pipeline. Next is I'm doing AWS Terraform with EKS. That is, I'm going to explain you how to create a EKS cluster on AWS using Terraform. Then I will be doing a video on Docker Scout. Then on the Docker Compose. Then we have the Kubernetes troubleshooting playlist altogether. So there are so many things in the pipeline, and in between I have to do these lives. And if there are any questions, I'll also have to make videos on that. So many things. I don't know when will I get a chance to do the other things. Will you do GCP on DevOps? Where is that? Yeah, this one. Will you do GCP with DevOps? I might do, but like I told you, it's not in the pipeline at this point of time. SRE videos. Okay. Please explain AWS well architectured project. Like, have you gone through the AWS Zero to Hero playlist? We have deployed a 3-tier architecture application on the Kubernetes. We used Helm charts, we used GitOps, we used EKS cluster. We also used a lot of things in that project. So I think you have got so many things in that. And also, apart from that, we have deployed 2-tier application. We have deployed multi-microservice architecture application on AWS. We did complete CI/CD pipelines on AWS. So there are so many videos. Please try to check the AWS Zero to Hero. If you still there is something missing, please let me know completely. What do you want to see? Like, instead of if you can elaborate in 2 to 3 lines, then I'll definitely take a note of it, and whenever I get some time, I'll revisit that and definitely try to make a video. one video on Pulumi. Okay, we will try to compare Pulumi with Terraform. In real time, what is the use of Ansible and ArgoCD? Shall we use both in the same project, or else we use like Ansible and ArgoCD are totally different? Ansible is a configuration management tool. ArgoCD, as the name suggests, is a continuous delivery, which is more advanced kind of a declarative continuous delivery thing, which has advanced capabilities such as continuous reconciliation, making sure that the system is versioned, right? So both of them are totally different. Ansible scope is to implement the continuous delivery. Uh, Ansible scope is to implement the configuration management, where it can help you with configuration of multiple systems in your organization. Let's say you want to patch some 100 Linux servers at once, then you can use Ansible. You should not be using Ansible. Like, I cannot say you should not be using Ansible for deployment, but there are dedicated things for deployment. Like, you can go with the GitOps approach, maybe Argo CD or Flux CD. You can be using some scripts. Otherwise, there are some good plugins that are available. So these are the things. That's the difference. Please make one more example project. There are so many projects. Like, why do you think we need one more project? If you can explain, because if I do one more project, that will be similar to what we have done, right? We have done voting service, which is of 5 microservices. Sorry, 3 microservices. There is a database, and there is also Redis for caching. Then we did 8 microservices with two databases, a messaging queue, and a caching server. Both of them on the Azure DevOps itself. So, like, what will be the difference if I do a new project? That's why I'm asking. Like, if you can elaborate, probably Abhishek, this is missing in those projects. Then I will definitely understand. And next time when I do, I can make sure that I have taken your comment into consideration. But I think we have covered most of them in that projects. DevOps versus DevSecOps. Yeah. Swapna, please try to watch the latest video on the channel, which I did the other day. I've clearly explained the difference. But in a nutshell, if you want to understand in one line, adding security best practices to your DevOps culture, that is, in whatever task that you are doing on a day-to-day basis. If you take security into consideration, it can be CI/CD, it can be Terraform infrastructure creation, anything. Thinking about security in your code that you are writing, in the scripting that you are writing, becomes DevSecOps. That's it. AWS Solution Architect will design the systems for you. Probably can help you in understanding which AWS service to use, how to use that service, how to make your entire cloud uh, resilient, how to make your entire cloud infrastructure uh, completely, how do I say that? Making your complete cloud infrastructure secure. So this is where solution architects come into picture. Tries to help you with cross-region setup. How do you do that? What kind of services can you use? How do you better design your entire system? These things. Uh, do we have any AWS API to connect with Terraform? I did not get this question. For every AWS service out there, you have the Terraform resource using which you can connect to the AWS. Internally, they use the APIs. Sure, we will do more videos on Ansible. Yeah. Complex video in Docker file writing. Okay. How does DevOps Engineer can help organization reduce costing? What are the free tools we can use and integrate with CI/CD pipeline we use, except Jenkins in terms of cost effectiveness? Okay, so if you are a DevOps engineer, you can use the serverless functions such as the Lambda functions. If we take AWS as an example, and using the serverless functions or using your cloud monitoring, you can verify what is the amount of usage of the resources. A lot of times there will be stale resources. Probably developers have created some snapshots but which are not being used, or created some volumes which are not being back. Snapshots are not taken to those for the volumes, and they have not been used for a long time also. In such cases, you can prepare a dashboard, or you can take an action that if the volumes are not used from last 180 days, just delete them. This is a very basic example, and by following these practices, you can improve the cost effectiveness cost. You can optimize the cost for your organization. System administration jobs are very difficult to get these days, uh, so I wouldn't recommend. Advanced topic in Ansible, sure. What are the prerequisites to become cloud solution architect? Firstly, you have to gain good experience working on cloud, right? Try to do DevOps for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Make sure you have good expertise on that. Then you can aim for the cloud solution architect. How to integrate IAM user with the RBAC in AKS? If you go to day 22 of AWS DevOps Zero to Hero series, or if you go to the 31st video on the AWS Zero to Hero series, in both of these videos, I have shown how to integrate IAM with RBAC in EKS. In a nutshell, we will be using the OIDC issuer in the AWS, using which you can connect that. I've shown you very clearly in that videos, day 22 or the 31st video, which is the last video in the AWS Zero to Hero. If you go to those videos, you can see clearly how to implement that. Is it okay to use Docker for high volume traffic server? Like, do you want to run it in a Docker? I did not get that question. Please do AKS Zero to Hero. It's already there on the channel. Just go to the Azure Zero to Hero playlist. AKS is covered in that. I've explained AKS from the basic. We have more than 5 to 6 videos. Okay, there is a super chat. Let me see what is it. What is coded UI and has it any link to DevOps? No, they are totally different. There is no relation with DevOps. Hyderabad meetup. Okay, we'll plan sometime for sure. Last time we did Hyderabad meetup, there were like almost 150 people. It was the best meetup that we have done. Yeah, but we will plan for that another time. Yeah, see, in terms of pipelines, all the CI/CD related things are the same. There will be difference in the syntax, there will be difference in how do you write those pipelines, but otherwise they are typically the same. Because the concept is the same, right? Underlying concept is to implement continuous integration. Okay, let's pick up one more question. Can we expect K8's playlist? It's already there on the channel. Kudagani Vishnuvardhan. Like the Kubernetes playlist is quite popular on the channel. Uh, I've also combined them into a single video, and that video I think it has like 300K views also. So it's quite popular. If you just go to the channel, you will find that. Okay. Any GCP 0 to hero can we expect? Can someone confirm if, again, because I see some issue with the audio, can someone confirm if the audio is good? Meanwhile, I'm also checking that. Okay, cool. Let me pick up some more questions. Okay, there is a super chat also, new one. Good, good, good. Okay, thanks. Thanks for confirming. Great. Please provide complete roadmap for. We did this multiple times. Roadmap, but I'll do it one more time because you have asked, and there are a lot of people in live. Probably it will also help them. So, see, if you want to enter DevOps, basically start with understanding what is DevOps, how does DevOps fit into the software development lifecycle. Then try to understand basic things such as Linux, basic shell commands. Then try to write simple shell scripts. Right, you don't have to go to advanced at this point of time. Then try to understand about Git. Try to understand how Git works, what is GitHub. Then you can move to the concept of continuous integration and continuous delivery. You can understand what is Ansible, what is Terraform at the basic level. Then try to learn the concept of containerization, understand what is container orchestration, try to deploy some basic applications onto Kubernetes. Then start with any of the cloud provider, right? And when you are learning the cloud provider, you can implement the same concepts that you have learned on the cloud provider. That way, you can learn the advanced things. Basically, start with all the basic things like I've explained, and then when you start learning AWS or Azure, you will implement the same concepts. But when you implement these same concepts on the cloud provider, you can start with the advanced stuff. And that is exactly what we have done in our playlist. So that's why I keep telling people, start with DevOps 0 to hero, where you will learn all the basic things, then AWS 0 to hero, then Terraform 0 to hero. All the playlists are available on the channel for free. Whether you are a fresher or experienced person, the flow of the videos will remain the same. But if you are a fresher, probably you don't have to understand everything at 100%. Even if you understand things to 60-70%, then it is good. Like, you don't have to get yourself stuck at a point. You can simply move on and understand the next concept. Okay. Last 10 minutes, let me pick up the super chat. Oh, it's again the same. What is coded UI? And see, they are totally different. DevOps, I've just explained, right? Coded UI is basically for verifying your application. It mostly comes under the testing, automation testing. So, in a nutshell, coded AI is related to automated testing. You can integrate that in one of your CI/CD pipelines as a DevOps engineer, but it is not anywhere related to each other, right? In the CI/CD pipeline, you have stages like the build stage, you have stages like the static code analysis. Similarly, in terms of your automation testing, probably you can use the coded UI there and try to verify your application. But otherwise, both of them are different. What is the difference between cloud engineer and DevOps engineer? Again, I have made a video on this, but I'll try to repeat. So, many times why I tell I have made a video on this, it's not that I don't want to explain, but if you want detailed things, you can go back and watch that. That's why I tell you. But otherwise, I can also explain in 1 or 2 lines here. People who are interested, they can go back, check the channel, and watch the detailed video for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, so that you will understand that concept in detail. But if I have to explain in 1 or 2 lines, cloud engineer and DevOps engineer. DevOps engineering is an umbrella under which cloud engineer is a small part, right? So that's the difference between them. In general, finding a cloud engineering job is difficult. Mostly you will find DevOps engineers jobs. Okay. What is process to implement AKS in internal network? Just do not expose the cluster to outside. Whenever you create a AKS cluster, right? You will create that within a virtual network. Make sure the virtual network does not has access to external world. That's it. That becomes the implementation of AKS within the internal network. Don't create, don't allow access from the external thing. Just make your internal network isolated. Just make your virtual network isolated. Create a proper firewall, as I have explained in the Azure series, and make sure your firewall is blocking all the requests. How can I become a DevOps architect if I'm already working as a DevOps engineer? If you're already working as DevOps engineer and let's say you have good idea, then start searching for the architect roles. If you have good understanding of the design of the systems, if you can design a proper DevOps solution within the organizations, then just search on LinkedIn if you have any positions. If you find the position, you can just apply. That's it. There is no proper standard mechanism. Okay, CNI, proxy, ingress in a nutshell. Again, everything is covered in the Kubernetes playlist. But because you have asked, I'll try to explain this in 2 to 3 lines. Whoever are live, you can pick this 2 to 3 lines of understanding. But if you want to learn that in a detailed way, please go back to the channel in the Kubernetes playlist. You will find everything in detail. CNI is Container Network Interface. So just understand, when you deploy your containers as pods in your Kubernetes cluster, right? Within your cluster, there has to be a networking. Just like if you and me are in the same house. So we have a home network, and the laptops or the systems within the mobiles are connected to the home network. Similarly, when you create a Kubernetes cluster, within the Kubernetes clusters, you deploy the pods. You have the containers which are deployed as pods. There has to be a networking within these pods. And this networking should not be by default accessible. Like if you want, you can make it accessible. But by default, this networking within your Kubernetes cluster should be different from your local networking, right? On virtual machines, you install Kubernetes. And within Kubernetes, you install the pods. These pods will have a network which is called as a container network. And what Kubernetes does is, by default, Kubernetes does not install a container network for you. Because there are so many container networks, what Kubernetes says is, okay, I will come up with something called as container network interface. And anyone who wants to deploy their container network, they just have to implement the container network interface. Right? Because if Kubernetes says that just install the flannel container network only, or install Calico container network only, then Kubernetes becomes dependent on that particular container network. So instead, what Kubernetes says is, see, I will come up with a container network interface, and what are the standards and guidance that is required. Anyone, it can be Flannel, Calico, WeaveNet. So what they can do is, they have to adhere to the standards of the container network interface. And if they meet the standards of CNI, then that container network can be installed on the Kubernetes cluster. And then the pods that you install will get an IP address. This is about CNI. Then you asked about proxy. So proxy is a very lengthy concept, but if I have to simply explain you, when you deploy again pods and when you create a service, right? So for your Kubernetes services that you have, how does that understand that this is the pod endpoints and it has to forward the request? So services use proxy, and within the proxy, proxy uses a mechanism within your Kubernetes cluster, and it identifies how does it has to forward the request to your Kubernetes pods. So internally, there are multiple ways it can do it. It can use IP tables, right? Best example is, it can use IP tables. There are different modes, but the popular one is IP tables. Using IP tables, so proxy writes IP tables, and services Kubernetes services will look at these IP tables and understand how to route the request to your Kubernetes pods. So I've explained this concept using a tool in the Kubernetes as well. So similar to Wireshark, within Kubernetes there is something called KubeShark, which is an application. Using KubeShark, I've also shown you live how does the Kubernetes service and how does the Kubernetes networking work. There I've explained kubeproxy. Finally, Ingress. So Ingress is a way of routing your requests into your Kubernetes cluster. With all these things that we have discussed is internal to Kubernetes, but let's say someone external to Kubernetes, someone who is outside your organization network wants to access your Kubernetes cluster, right? Or someone who don't have access to your Kubernetes nodes, but they want to access the application that you have deployed in the Kubernetes. So what you can do is you can create an ingress resource which will be watched by the ingress controllers, and this ingress controller will look at the ingress resource and it will create the load balancer configuration for your Kubernetes cluster. Using this, external people can access your Kubernetes cluster, just like we access Amazon.com, Myntra, or any other websites today. Again, this is just a 5 minutes unprepared explanation, but if you want to get into the details of it and if you want to understand them in a much better way, please try to look at my Kubernetes playlist. Any chance for Bangalore meetup? Again, like I've told you, I'll try. Okay, so last 5 minutes. If you have any questions that are interesting, please post. What is the roles and responsibilities of DevOps Operation Manager? I don't know what is DevOps Operation Manager. My bad. Where do you see this? What is DevOps Operation Manager? Let me search. Okay, I don't see anything on the internet as well. DevOps Operation Manager. My bad if this is something new, I don't know what exactly is it. How is GitHub Actions for CI/CD from security perspective? What do you think about serverless in future? Serverless is good. Serverless can be used in some scenarios in a very good way, but you should not be using serverless in every approach that you take because there are downsides as well. Uh, in one of the recent videos, when I'm explaining Azure serverless, I've explained how DevOps engineers can use serverless. But if I have to explain in 1 or 2 lines, DevOps engineers use serverless functions for cost optimizations. DevOps engineers use a serverless function for maintaining the configuration of the cloud infrastructure. Serverless functions to send notifications on certain triggers, right? So DevOps engineers have a lot of use cases of serverless. So it is good if you learn. In Azure, you can learn about Azure functions. In AWS, you can learn about the Lambda functions. GitHub Actions is good for CI/CD. A lot of companies use it. But I think still a lot of companies use Jenkins as the CI/CD. Apart from that, Azure DevOps is good. GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps, GitLab CI/CD, they are all doing very good. Yeah, serverless architecture, as I've explained, it is good. What could be few responsibilities of DevOps tech manager? Okay, I think you're asking about DevOps manager. Not involved in writing. There is nothing called DevOps manager. Basically, there is a manager position. Like for a team, you have a manager, right? So within the team, you might have DevOps engineers, you might have developers, you might have, let's say, QA engineers. So as a manager, there are again two things. One is there is a tech manager. The other one is a people's manager. So for people's manager, you take care of people, their well-being. You take care of any issues that they face. Block the team members. Talk to maintain all the requirements of the teams. This is what you do as a probably the hype cycle, uh, growth of the employees within your team. This is what you do as a people's manager. But when it comes to tech manager, then your responsibility is you also do the people management. Along with that, you make sure that all the technical requirements of your team is met. If they are blocked with any technical issue, you find the right people and try to unblock the team with respect to the technical issue. And at times, you also involve in the technical aspects of the team. That is, you will get involved in the day-to-day activities. You will get involved in the backlog refinement, planning of the team. You will identify what are the important tasks that the team has to implement in the current sprint, in the next sprints. What is the team should be doing in the next 6 months. This is what you do. Okay, last 2 minutes, I'll pick up two questions and then we can end this live session. What are the tasks need to perform with? What are the tasks DevOps need to perform with respect to database? Basically, for connecting your applications to the database. Let's say you have a database, which we have done in the 3-tier architecture application, right? In the e-commerce application, I have containerized a database and I've shown you how to connect a containerized application to a database. This is one thing. But otherwise, if your database is on premises, then how do you connect your Kubernetes cluster to the database? How do you deploy the database? These kind of things. Last question. Let's see which one I can pick up. Okay. Azure or AWS, which is easy to learn. For AWS, you have a lot of resources. For Azure, you get, if you're a student, you get the free student account. For AWS, you get a free account for 1 year. Both of them have the free resources. So for the starting point, both of them are good. But more number of tutorials, more number of videos you find for AWS. But let's say you want to pick up Azure. Then you have our Azure Zero to Hero series, which you can start with. Azure is really doing good in terms of the AI ML space, and they are also doing very good in terms of the CI/CD with their Azure DevOps solution. AWS lacks in those things. So I can simply tell you, in terms of market, assume AWS, if they have 7 jobs or 6 jobs, Azure has 3 or 4 jobs. So probably say 6 jobs for AWS and 4 jobs for Azure, depending on how many companies have adopted AWS and how many companies have adopted Azure. So yeah, this is what I have to explain. So thank you so much for joining live today. This is our regular Monday live, which I wanted to explain about DevSecOps, but I have also picked up your Ask Me Anything questions. We'll be doing these live sessions every Monday so that I can pick up your questions and try to help as much as possible apart from our regular videos. See you on the next Monday live. Thank you so much for joining. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.